And I think this leads us really nicely into our next topic, which is around building career resilience. Certainly in the work that we do, we see resilience as a key leadership trait that we're, particularly now with managing hybrid workforces, what are the things that we can encourage our leaders and all individuals to change their mindsets around and learn from those challenges. I'd love to hear the role of resilience for you in each of your careers, and when you've found yourself particularly stressed or challenged, and how you've been able to build and learn from those challenges. I'm looking at you, Craig, because I can see you've got lots of experience over
looking
your
at Craig.
years.
No, I don't. Yeah, no, don't look at me. Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, no. Can you see the
I'd
scars?
love
Great,
to hear from you, that's all.
Beaten enough,
Tell me about resilience in your career.
No, I was smirking. Sorry, I was just trying. It's such a big topic. I was
It's
thinking,
a huge topic.
How do you tackle this in a meaningful way? So I'm sort of probably not as prepared as I could be. I mean, I think I'm a big believer in this. In this, there's no such thing as free will. So we're just gifted all the things that we have, like optimism and resilience. We're just lucky enough to be given the genes that make it that. So I think most of us probably have that, and thank goodness, because otherwise we wouldn't be here, right? So I don't think we made it ourselves. I think it was just given to us. So I think that's firstly just lucky to be given the right genes. I think that for me, certainly later in life, when I've had to sort of operate at a very high level across lots of different areas, knowing what I had to do to myself, like seeing myself as something I need to look after, almost like an athlete. You have to look after yourself, invest in yourself, which maybe people knew before. It took me decades to get to that. I used to flog myself and then fall in a hole. You can't do that. Your job is to look after yourself, whether that's exercise, nutrition, relationships, meditation, mindfulness, all that package, whatever works for you. I think that's something I now okay with. I'm okay taking an afternoon off to go surfing because I need to do that, and that's okay. I need to do that, and I'll be better for you tomorrow if I do that. So, that I wouldn't have done that 20 years ago.
Yeah, that notion of the corporate athlete and looking after yourself and training the way an athlete would train is really becoming a trend, and sounds like you're practicing that implicitly.
Well, not really. I'm fumbling around here because I think we have a lot of mental health sessions, and I think the thing that troubles me is often this: you either got it or you don't have it, and it's almost like. And of course we should spend a lot of time on mental health, but there's a whole spectrum before you even get into a bad area. You just need to look after yourself in that area, and I don't know that we spend enough time on that actually. And I guess I have learned to do more about that.
Yeah. You've both got young children. How are you approaching career resilience? Nicole, I'd love to hear from you with your 11-week-old.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's definitely a new kind of challenge. Like I'm used to working hard, but I'm also used to having more than 5 hours sleep a week. I think self-care is a big part of it. So no matter what stage in life you're at, always making sure to check in with yourself and where you're at, and making sure that you still find the time to do things that are important to you. For me, that might just be switching off, putting on some stupid TV show for half an hour and, recharging the batteries so I can be a better person, the next morning. And I think from a team perspective as well, talking about like resilience at a company level, I think it ties a lot into what we were saying before around, yes, it's work, but at the end of the day, it is just a job. And so you need to check in with yourself and with your team, and it's probably a much easier thing to do when you've only got 6, but we always try and advocate to not just establish work-home balance through like flexible days and flexible working, but just checking in with everyone and seeing how everyone's feeling. Things come up as they always do, doctor's appointment. It's not really a question people should have to ask us. They should just let us know, and if there's good communication saying that something else on that day, then that is totally fine. So I think resilience, both at a personal level and at a team level, comes down to sort of self-care, checking in, and maybe empathy as well.
Yeah. Awesome. Will?
Yeah, it's sort of tough to to sort of pinpoint it, but I think as you were saying, Craig, there is a fundamental part of it that is just who you are, and I've definitely had tough days that may have spanned to tough weeks, but that's about it. And most mornings, honestly, when I wake up the next day, I'm good to go. And usually the ones that are tougher weeks, there's a combination of things. It's not just work. Like in terms of talking just work, you know, maybe there's been a tough week here and there, but it's usually just a tough day, and then I go to bed and I wake up and I'm fresh and I'm good to go. And I don't know, at a personal level, I've never thought that there's not options. You know, it doesn't really matter what happens. I always just think, okay, this is where we're at. We've got to get through this in a certain way. What are our options? Let's work through the plans, you know. And we've got the team, who has the skill set to work through the plans. Now, I also fully appreciate, as I was saying before, that we've had an awesome run. We've you know, macroeconomically, we've been operating in an industry during a time that has been fantastic. You know, in terms of our timing to enter the industry as a business, it's been great. In other words, we've had everything going in our favor. So I'm not sitting here thinking that, oh, you know, we've had tough times and we've worked through them and we're really strong, right? Like, we've had beautiful times, you know. So I think you need to take that into account, albeit you can't do that entirely objectively. It's just impossible. You can't remove yourself from your own frame of reference to that degree. I think, you know, not talking about myself personally within the business, one of the things, you know, I say I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised. I'm just stupid. It has surprised me when people get themselves into a bit of a problem, that they didn't realize that they could just flag the problem, you know, maybe slightly earlier, and there's 1,000 ways out, you know, and it's really affecting them, right? And the reason I say I shouldn't be surprised I'm just stupid is because, yeah, I'm just sort of stupid. Like, you should just know that if you're running a business, and that's your fault because you need to program into the business and the way you're operating, and understanding that people can, like, put their hand up and go, hey, you know, hopefully, I'm heading down a path that's not great, or alternatively, I'm at a point that's not great. And at least to date, you know, there's never a problem we can't fix. Now, the fix might not look fantastic, but it's always a fix. You're never going to be in a position where, and you know, I never want any one of our team to ever feel as though they're in a position where they got a real problem, right? And I think that's something, if I'm not talking about myself personally, that's something that I think, at least for me, I didn't do a very good job of, because I just lacked the awareness for a long time that people just didn't see things the way I saw them. But it's my business, of course, you know, it's completely different. And so that's not good. And I think if you're starting up a business, and particularly if you're growing a business, you need to keep in mind as you grow, and as, you know, there starts to be more distance between you and the people you used to work with and all that sort of stuff. But people might not inherently understand that if they're you know, not feeling good for whatever reason, that they can just put their hand up and the whole team is there to support them, you know. And I think that, I don't know if this is directly related to resilience, but I think that it's building in those sort of processes and that sort of just understanding into your business, so that you're almost trying to remove the requirement for people to be resilient, you know, because you sort of want to save that up for when they really need it, right? And there's no other choice. But on a day-to-day level, you should be able to work in a smarter way than that, so that people don't have to flex that muscle all the time.
Yeah, awesome.
I think this is where Nicole's empathy point is critical. I think, you know, most of us have the right genes for resilience, and I think, I mean, it's not always easy to understand that somebody who doesn't see the world that way would behave differently, and that's a fail I've made many times. So I feel ill-equipped to talk about resilience because I've got it, like, it's easy for me, but not everyone's like that, and that's just where just turning it, you know, sort of self-awareness and trying to sort of somehow engineer it through the organisations is a much trickier, thing to do. I don't know what the answer is, but at least starting with some self-awareness. Not everyone's like you is probably a good place to start.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, empathy, the ability to see other people's perspectives and put yourself in other people's shoes, a big part of that is mindset and looking at problems as opportunities to learn and not as things that are black and white and I can't do that. So empathy definitely equips people to think more broadly about that.
So I can't just say toughen up next time? Okay.
Depends on
maybe
the
not.
circumstance. There's a time for it,
but
not every time.
Okay, good.
But that leads us into the next thing that I'd love to explore with you, and that's mindset. So, you know, I'm sure you've all heard of the concept of a growth mindset, as I was describing before. You know, the ability to look at something as an opportunity to learn and grow from it, not just as a failure if you don't know the answer now. How has mindset been important for you across your careers, and how are you seeing that show up in your teams and supporting them to build the right mindset, if it is something that they may not be coming with the first time round? Thoughts on that, Nicole?
Yeah, I think you need to not be scared of failure. You need to not be fearful, and that is an incredibly hard thing to do, especially when you're just at the beginning of your career journey. I know when I felt, when I was leaving uni and I had this part-time role working for an MP, I was, as I said before, incredibly fearful of what would come next. But it was really important not to let it paralyse me, because if you don't go and do things, as Will said, just go and do it, you're not really going to get anywhere. So I think the mindset that I've had to learn, and it definitely wasn't an easy thing, but it was just to go and try things and have that sort of can-do attitude. And fortunately, in the world of technology startups anyway, there are so many ways to validate an idea that are incredibly easy to do, low risk, don't cost you any money, that you can sort of take those risks in a sort of safe space. You don't need to just jump all in, just off, a back of a good idea. There are ways to sort of give yourself that certainty and make it easier, hopefully, to have that can-do, sort of jump in and do it attitude.
So going back to what you said right at the start of say yes until you can't say no anymore.
Totally, yes.
Give it a go and don't be afraid.
Exactly right.
Will, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, so I didn't, very simplistically, I started Archie because I love spirits, right? I love gin, love whiskey. That's what I wanted to make. There's a bit more to it than that, but that's sort of the fundamentals. The bit that I didn't know, and then I learned as I got into it, was I also loved, which makes me sound like a bit of a wanker, but I also loved just progressing as a person. I love the fact that doing this gets me all this insane experience that I couldn't have got this doing anything else, right? And I don't know, it probably doesn't make me sound great. It's probably not that great a trait, but I just really enjoy that. I enjoy the feeling of learning new stuff and going, I can do that now, and to be honest, it's usually way, way, way more frequently not I can do that, but I know who to go to and get the team together and the right people and get the advice and blah, blah, blah to get it done. And so for me, before I sort of knew of the term growth mindset and all this sort of stuff, I loved like learning new things and then having that in the toolkit, and I almost loved it as much as I loved making spirits. And that sticks around. And I don't know if that's just sort of built in, but I love what I do, but I also just love doing new stuff and learning that new stuff. And so the bit I haven't figured out is I don't know how to explain that to people without A, sounding like a wanker, and B, actually giving them something they can do. So at the moment, the only thing I do is I just tell them all the time. And particularly when things don't go that well, and you just go, it doesn't matter. Look, hey, we were shooting for this outcome, we got this outcome, but now you know how to do it. That's the most awesome thing. And that applies outside of Archie Rose. And I've had this conversation with a lot of people, not just people that were leaving. I'm like, look, whatever you go and do, now you can do that. How awesome is that? Great, like you did some awesome stuff while you were here and it's a real shame to see you go or whatever, but like now you have that and you can go take that to anything you want to do. And so look, I don't know how to sort of instill that other than just obsessively tell people that over and over and over again, right? But for me, it just came naturally and I didn't know it was there until I started, but I honestly like that as much as I like doing what we do.
Yeah, awesome. I have to say the love of learning and the being out of your depth and constantly learning and stretching yourself is something that really drives me. I do love to kind of keep building things into my toolkit as I go as a business founder. One thing you said I want to touch on with Craig just before we round out, and that was having the right people around you. I imagine across your career, Craig, networking has been a really important part of building your business and building your brands and your portfolios. Tell us a little bit about how you go about that and the importance of networking for you.
Yeah, I don't really like the term networking because I think for like 20 years I just thought it was just bullshit.
Cringy.
Right? Yeah. And I still think there is elements of that.
Yeah.
But I think it felt inauthentic. It felt transactional. It felt sort of like there was an agenda. And I'm a country kid who just wants to have a good conversation. So I need to get my head around that. But I think I've come to realise that for the most part, it's just nice to spend half an hour with somebody talking about stuff. And you might, and I'm okay with the serendipitous nature of it. Maybe something comes out, maybe it doesn't. I'm not very good at. In fact, my team hates me. I'm very bad at. You should meet these people. I go to rooms and I just get stuck in the corner with someone who seems interesting. I'm actually terrible at it, I guess, and naturally because I just like a good chat, actually. But I think over the years I've just had the opportunity to meet a lot of very good people who've done interesting things in their lives, and I'm sort of drawn to them. And it could, whether it's within my career or outside my career. And so there's always, I think, a sort of gaggle of pretty broad-minded people who are doing cool stuff that I can call on, and I think that's probably adds layers to me, and that makes it easier for me to unpack problems, or hopefully adds a few extra twists to me too. So I think that's not a very good answer. I'm not very good at networking. Don't do what I did. Go out, find mentors. Go to events. When you go to the event, there's 3 people you want to speak to. See those 3 people. All the things you should do. I didn't do any of that. So.
I actually think your answer is a great answer, because what I take from it is be authentic and form connections, and that's where the opportunities come from. Take the time to get to know the other person and put yourself out there to be in an environment where you can meet and learn from new people.
Yeah.
So that's, I think it's a great answer.
Be authentic, yes. Yeah. But realise that that's probably a long-term game, not a short-term game.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. Look, I think we are out of time, but I have really enjoyed getting to know all of you and hearing your experiences over the last 12 months and in your career so far. So thank you so much for being part of this Unconventional Career Series. I look forward to seeing where all of your businesses go in the future. So thanks very much.